I'll pass the floor over to Andrea.
Hey, thanks for joining today. So, and thanks for the introduction. I wear many hats here. So I'm a researcher at CNR, and I'm co-chairing this working group around the SKG-IF, and I also work around OpenAIRE. So this will become clear. But so basically, I'm a multi-stakeholder in this process, and so the main work of the SKG-IF has been done officially under the Research Data Alliance umbrella. And we started thinking about interoperability, I think it was 2020, something like that. We had a seminal paper on this matter in a workshop. And then, we started, we started operation as task forces in the interest group around open science grasp of Fed data. And we applied and for an independent working group, which has been endorsed in June 2023. We had an initial wrap-up date in December 24, and we negotiated for an extension until basically this month, in order to basically, the idea was to complete a few things that were really burning issues to have in the first iteration. It wouldn't make any sense to push them back at a later stage. So we prefer to have everything, to delay a bit and have everything released in the first place. When we set off, we were mainly, this whole discourse around interoperability stems from our experience in scholarly knowledge graphs and scholarly communication in general. And since 2020, we could see that there were a lot of initiatives and data sources that were scattered around and fragmented. And we had a picture pretty much like this one so our focus was mostly on scholarly communication back then. And the idea is that whenever two different initiatives or data sources intended to have to exchange knowledge and local improvements, they had to establish peer-to-peer collaborations, which entails mappings and duplication of effort. Because if you think about it, is the same process run by multiple stakeholders all the time, and this is not great, because the more players are on the field, the more links you need to have a full mesh of cooperation, right? So it's not really a clever way to operate, and there are many reasons why different sources should talk, precisely because they were born and created for different reasons, with different use cases in mind, with slightly different nuances in the data models and the use cases. So, the idea was, let's talk a common language. Let's try to factorize everything the same way we do now with English, which is not our native language, but we have a consensus agreement on talking in English, and for most of us, there are some natives, but the idea is to have a language, not yet another data model, but to have a semantic interoperability layer that enables SKGs to talk and share data in a common way with unambiguous semantics. So this is, in a nutshell, the idea. It's like having different SKGs talking their own language internally, but having an interoperability layer at the interface that enables basically sharing data over the wire, both with snapshots and APIs in a standardized, uniform way. So SKG-IF, it's nothing magic. It's just a set of guidelines. I'm saying just, but it's a reduction because it took a lot of time to kind of converge on that. So it's a recommendation list of several things. We do have an online documentation and our own GitHub organization on GitHub, which contains, I think, now it's over 10 different repositories, and we do have our usual page on the RDA website. So in a nutshell, the methodology was that we adopted throughout the whole journey was about not reinventing the wheel, not coming up with a new model, but just trying to factorize and come to terms with what is around. So we onboarded and engaged with major SKGs providers, DataCite, Crossref, OpenAIRE, that was an easy one, OpenAlex, OpenCitation, another easy one because Silvio is co-chairing the working group, and Chris Systems. So Chris mostly in the embodied in Serif. So we try to, and we still talk and collaborate with the major contributors of the Serif and the new Serif data model. And we initially performed a landscape analysis, trying to understand how the scholarly information was depicted in locally adopted data models, which were the commonalities in terms of entities and properties describing such entities and relations. And we had to go through pragmatic choices for inclusions and information modeling. So like we wouldn't include at the beginning any kind of entity that was modeled. Again, like the focus was mostly on scholarly communication and properties characterizing entities that are relative and sensible to scholarly communication first. And then more recently, when we had to devise the semantic interoperability layer, we tried to remix already available and reuse already available ontologies without overloading yet new brand new entities with their own properties. We were trying to tap into the existing knowledge, reusing and without reinventing, again, as much as possible. The architectural overview could be pictured like this. So the foundation is the data model, which has been developed with semantic web technologies. So we do have 6 different little ontologies or ontological modules that flow into the main one, which is SKG-IF. And then on top of the data model, we move to the actual format of the objects that are flying through the wires and via data files or via APIs, their format and their shape constraints. So, and this is broken into 3 different pieces that are at the same level. So one is the interoperability framework, which is describes the format that the object should have, the JSON LD context, which describes the mapping, then the shackle, which is kind of the gatekeeper. It tries to understand, it enforces that the format is indeed the one expected. On top of that, we have open API specifications, and everything is flanked by the extension mechanism that pretty much covers all the levels of the stack, because extensions, and this is where the S in SKG transition from being scholarly knowledge graph to transition to scientific knowledge graphs, because we had the need to extend this view that at the beginning was rather narrow, focused on scholarly communication, to something more open, and that could potentially include concepts that were not taken into consideration at the beginning, but were really, really pivotal in certain contexts, such as projects, which are, by the way, using SKG-IF on their own. So the core model, as I was saying, has these is around these 6 main entities. So research product that can be of 4 types, mostly. So literature, research data, software, or any other research product. And this is like a fallback classification. So a class on its own, whenever it is not something. Whenever is not one of the 3 described previously, the safest would be to classify that as other. Then we have agent that represent an individual, which is either a person, an organization, or any other kind being able to act, which is involved in the creation, dissemination, or publication of research knowledge, or research knowledge or research product. Data source and venue are 2 entities that are tightly related. So the data source is the service or platform that hosts the descriptive metadata about research product and make them preserved in long term and discoverable and accessible, while the venue is the publishing gateway that is used by an agent in order to publish and to make available the research product to others. Grant, that's an easy one. Well, we have an open discussion about that, but grant as such, and the way it is modeled now, it's about describing the money that is awarded to an agent in order to run a research endeavor, while topic describes scientific disciplines and subjects or keywords that can be relevant to a research product. So all the core model, for all the core model, the format of reference is JSON-LD, and we adopted the field-by-field documentation with examples. So this is what you find, what you find on the website. For example, here, this property duration describes the duration of a grant, start and date. It tells what is the format should be following, the cardinality and the type. And then, as I was saying, this description on the website on a field by field is complemented by the JSON-LD context, which defines semantic interoperability. You can find it here with persistent identifiers, under these persistent identifier, and the JSON-LD context defines all the mappings that the interoperability framework provides. So basically, you see at the beginning a list of all the ontologies that are imported and reused within the SKG-IF, and then for every JSON term, for every property that takes part to the interoperability framework, there is an unambiguous reference to the ontological concept that it stands for. So there's no chances to be mistaken when sharing that kind of information. So, for example, anytime you see author, that's an author. It cannot be a different concept. So that's how the semantic interoperability is enforced. And then finally, the shackle completes everything with conformity checks on the data that are exchanged by checking whether the ontology is indeed aligned, the cardinality is enforced, and control vocabularies are in place. Control vocabularies at the moment is a feature that's not fully implemented, but because we do have a shackle generator that creates these shackle turtle file that is the actual piece of knowledge that performs the conformity checks. And the shackle extractor is not at the moment injecting anything about control vocabularies. So it's something that we will add once the documentation is now basically in the final stages, when the documentation is settling down and there are no more discussions or issues to be addressed. Then we had APIs, and the first iteration we had 3 vanilla resolvers. There were so basically the idea at the beginning was to have to support basically resolution of IDs of some kind, returning SKG-IF compliant representation of the object requested. And recently we transitioned to OpenAPI YAML specification. So it's, again, we are not providing implementation for the APIs. We are not providing boilerplate code. We do have an API first approach. So basically we share the contract that any API SKG-IF compliant should comply to. So this defines the endpoint, input, output, and operations allowed. It has been released in alpha the beginning of the month, and there was last week there was an hackathon about this in Grenoble, and so the most recent feedback will be incorporated. There will be some minor changes, but all in all, that again, this is another task that has been done. So, and we do have committed adopters of the API as well. So like Open Citations and OpenAIRE are already considering that. Data side will probably follow. We had in a few occasions we had we had manifestations of interest from there. They were just waiting things to be mature and settle, and the discussion to settle down. But yeah, it's I don't have any reservation thinking that DataSite will not follow. And then the final component is the extension mechanism. So again, very briefly, extensions are like plugins, and is the customization point where a proponent can inject new properties or new entities that are not initially comprised by the SKG-IF, and the extension should capture not an individual interest into something, but rather a community-driven need. For example, a project or a research community, a community of practice, and so on. So there are two basic requirements for participation. One is this about shared interest. So there should be a collective need backing the request of an extension, and the other one is about non-interference, meaning that an extension should not be the place to provide shortcuts for things you don't like in the core model. So say you don't like the name of a given property, you don't like that some kind of information is conveyed, is described in a particular way, and you provide an extension just to do the same thing, but in a different way. That's not allowed. This would, breaking any of these two principles would prevent the working group to approve the request for the extension. So basically, what can extension do? It's either adding core model properties and relations to a core entity, so to an entity that's already there, or introduce new entities with their own properties and relations. I will make an example. We do not have corresponding author email for research products. That could be matter for of an extension. We didn't model that information because it wasn't widespread enough in the metadata model that we examined at first. But again, it could be something that's really beneficial for certain use cases. Then that could be an extension. Another new entities, for example, peer reviews. Peer reviews are not modeled, and or comments in general are not modeled. That could be matter for proposing a new extension. Instruments, services, facilities, all these are not core model entities, but they are viable extensions, provided there is an interest around them. Then the other thing that extension can do, it's providing API extension. So customize the behavior of the methods by adding new parameters, or introduce new methods that are, for example, targeting the new entities that have been introduced. So whenever an extension adds a new entity, it is expected that the same extension adds also an API endpoint for that entity to return information about that entity. And the same for fields. Whenever an extension introduces a new field for an entity, it should also provide a slightly different format so that the resolution or a query over the API returns that extra bit of information that was not initially comprehended by the specification, the core ones. So for extensions, we thought to adopt a centralized governance and structured lifecycles rather than having pull requests, so forking and issuing pull requests. We did that because we thought, I mean, in this way, any proponent for an extension should apply for that explicitly via GitHub issues. Upon approval, proponents will be assigned a dedicated repository within the SKG-IF organization on GitHub. So everything nice and tidy in the same place rather than scattered around. The development and documentation of the extensions will follow the same core specification and have the same technological stack and look and feel, and most of all, it's included in the same workflow for continuous integration, continuous development, which means that anytime it means that an extension will have like a mini website, which lives inside the same the main SKG-IF documentation, and every time a new commit is issued and pushed onto GitHub, that will trigger again a global recompile of the whole website, so that the documentation about the extension is already online and following the same format and look and feel, despite being hidden at the beginning. So once the level of maturity is adequate, the extension can be finalized and officially endorsed by the working group, and then possibly follow that. There could be cherry picking of parts, sub portions, or even the whole thing for that matter, in order to be pushed into the core. If an extension includes something that's really that really makes sense to have in the core, there's no point in having an extension doing that, relinquished in this ancillary ancillary property, it makes sense to have it promoted as the core model essential part. In terms of ongoing and future work, we are finalizing the documentation, as I was saying, because the working group is wrapping up. And I managed for, I think, 2 weeks ago to create these extension template that tries to guide a bit better the procedure and that is behind the application and extension development. Then in the meanwhile, there are a few things happening on different fronts. GraspOS is finalizing the first extension, actually, of the SKG-IF, which is providing indicators for research assessment. So AIRE SKG has been now published and successful on the website. And then it has been mentioned in this COADA working group on open infrastructures for responsible research assessment. Australia is testing extensions and APIs, and we need to thank them for the open API specifications because they mostly led this effort. And Scilake will be using the core model, but in terms of APIs, they will go through different venue, a different avenue that involves GraphQL. So they will detach from the standard, but and use a different kind of endpoint for the APIs, but they will be still adhering to the semantic interoperability layer on the model standpoint. And speaking about OpenAIRE, OpenAIRE is committed to the SKG-IF, and it's currently working on providing and maintaining compliant SKG-IF compliant snapshots, similar to the one we have on Zenodo. I forgot to link that here, but we do have. I mean, OpenAIRE provides snapshots of the whole OpenAIRE graph and pushes them onto Zenodo in maintaining them over time. So like having different versions of that. And we think to do the same for SKG-IF compliant snapshots. But yet we need to understand what is the best strategy regarding extensions. And that's because if you think about it, every extension could trigger basically a different dump, or any combination of different extensions could trigger a different dump. So probably it's not what we want to go for. Perhaps having just one dump with all the extension all at once, that could be a viable solution. At least, I mean, OpenAIRE is intended to support the extensions that are being developed within the scope of the projects that it participates to. And API-wise, there is the intention to provide an implementation, which is actually something that's currently under development to the core APIs, and the same thing happens for the extension, because whenever an extension kicks in, if a system wants to be compliant to the extension as well, you need to hack the core API implementation in order to provide and return the information that is modeled by the extension as well. So that would be all from my side. I hope that was clear enough. It's a hell of a ride to summarize all these things in a presentation, but I mean, you can find online all the information in more extended format. So if you have any question, I'm more than happy to address that. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Andrea. So Yeah, so now we'll move to the Q&A. So again, you can raise your hand, write your question in the chat, write it in the Q&A. Let's see, also check, see if we have anything in our Google document.
Thank you, Paulette. Thank you, Nicola. Very kind of you.
Give me some time to mull it over. We'll also share an announcement that some of you may have already heard about. Oh, actually, I'll hold that. Looks like we have something in the Q&A. So we have from Mikael, Jason LD, why? Is it possible to support also other RDF sterilizations, serializations?
Okay, so why JSON LD? So in the first iteration that I briefly skimmed through the presentation, we adopted JSON, like the vanilla one, as a format of reference, and then and that was mostly because of easiness of use. I mean, if you see, for example, OpenAIRE, that's that is in JSON. If you go to OpenAIRE again, you find JSON documentation. Same for Microsoft Academic Graph. So we didn't want to be disruptive in terms of what people were accustomed to see and use day in, day out. So when we had to think about semantic interoperability, yeah, and of course we had, okay, RDF could be viable, but RDF, it's something that people are not really, at least the people that are working in this domain, not meaning working in scholarly communication, scientometrics, bibliometrics, and so on and so forth, excluded the ones coming from semantic web. They're not accustomed to working with RDF. So we thought to hit two birds with one stone, having JSON LD, because you can serialize. I mean, with JSON LD, you can triplify a JSON LD representation of an entity into RDF in a rather streamlined way. So it's not, it comes by design. It's supported by design. So we thought, I mean, again, Silvio comes from the semantic web community, and I thought that could be the best move for us to take. And I agreed, because it was basically a trade-off between the two words, and that's pretty much the rationale behind that decision.
Thanks. And then we had from Paulette, she's asking if you could please repeat what you said about DataCite. She didn't catch it properly.
So, so DataCite started to work with the working group since the beginning, and there was, I think, a project that was still going around SKG. I think it was Faircore for Risk. And DataCite within the project had some commitments, SKG-IF wise, like I can't remember what they had to do to provide, or if they had to digest SKG-IF compliant information from other partners, but they have been always discussing within the working group. They participated and still are participating, and about the APIs, they manifested multiple times they would back the idea, but the APIs were not yet mature enough for them to actually kick off the development. So bottom line is, I hope that once the other partners are have implemented the API core specifications, DataCite will follow, because that would make sense. It would be a clear sign that there is a critical mass reaching point, and data set would follow. That was mostly the thing. Now, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to promise things on behalf of data set, right? So I just wanted to shed my idea without being prescriptive about it.
Great, thanks. And then we have a couple more questions in the Q&A. So from Albin, we have, how much of the new OpenAIRE Graph API is SKG-IF compliant?
That's an ongoing process. So I think there is a new person working on that, and I mean, the idea, I think, is about having different radically different endpoint flanking the old one, so it's not gonna replace anything. That would be stupid to do, because the APIs, the OpenAIRE APIs, as we know them, have been used for certain applications, so they need to remain. And most probably there will be another endpoint that provides the same kind of information, but in a different format.
Thanks. And then a follow-up to that was also, when will the SKG-IF compliant OpenAIRE dump be made available? Really interested and can't wait to try it out.
So there are a couple of dumps in the first format of the SKG-IF, and I think that so the person that's working on dumps is Miriam, which is the colleague sharing my room, and I know that she's working on that, and I'm not sure about the timing.
Andrea,
There will
reply
sorry?
to this.
Miri, you're here.
The complete data set in the SKG-IF, the format that Andrea shown is ready, and it will be uploaded in the next few days on the Verkor4IOSC and also OpenAIRE sorry, community on Zenodo. There will also be some specific data sets related to the SciLake project, each one for each pilot in this format. So you can have, if you are interested in specific communities, you can have an overview on a smaller set of data.
Great.
I see another.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much,
Miriam. In the chat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have another one in the chat. I'll read aloud for everyone.
So what are the relations that can exist between entities? Will it work sooner? Yes. No. Okay, so if you go on the interoperability framework specs online, basically where you see, perhaps I can share my screen. Browser. Too many tabs. So here. So all these properties here, identifiers and identity type titles and whatnot, they can be either descriptive properties of the of the entity, or links to different entities, like topics. Topics here, it has, so now this is mock, of course, but is a list of topics that are relevant for research product, and this is an extension. So it's so the short answer is extensions are on the JSON level, extensions are embedded as properties, as any other kind of property. And the difference is that rather than having the information for that JSON term just around here, so like you don't know what is the topic one until you resolve that identifier and you go to the object with ID topic_1 and you see what is the name. So like basically you need to jump to the other object and resolve the information you are looking for. And I mean, what we are trying, I mean, one way to use JSON LD is to have a graph, it's called @graph construct within the JSON reply. And there you can have all the objects. So you don't really need to, this doesn't mean that you need to make necessarily multiple queries. It means that you just need to navigate to a different different entity with a different identifiers in order to get sense of what that entity is, because at the beginning you just have the ID. Is that clear? That okay?
Looks like it. Great. We had another question proposal in the Q&A. Again, from Michael, we have also interested about DataCite. They've created core conceptual model for research metadata in Czechia, trying to stick to RDF representation with formalization into XSD and or JSON LD. However, DataCite does not have ontology representation, so they had to create it. If we had similar issues, we had similar issues, it'd be nice to cooperate on this. At the same time, their metadata approach is very likely mappable to yours, at least with RDF approach. I don't know if that's something.
That was very long.
Yeah.
I was trying to get the just to read that and to find the place where that was.
It's in the Q&A. It's in the Q&A. It's in the Q&A. Here,
but can I access that?
Yeah. Here, let me.
Q&A tab. Q&A tab.
I don't know if you have. I'm trying to see.
Perhaps not, because I see the notes. I mean I have a link. I mean I just the sad part is that I don't know if I need to reply to something or not.
Yeah. I'm trying to send it. Oh, Zoom is being so weird today. Okay, I'll send it. And I'll send this in the chat.
Or I can ask you. I can ask you here by audio. Maybe it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me see my face.
No.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is that we are working for last year, let's say, in a very similar project. We are trying to create some metadata approach using RDF representations and ontologies, using whatever exists, including DCAT, AP, DataCite, and this kind of stuff. The troubles we have, if we want to stick to DataCite, is that DataCite does not have any RDF representation yet. So we had to create something to represent DataCite resources, classes, properties, etc. I believe that if you wanted to stick to DataCite as well, you had to do something similar. So you had to reuse the attributes from DataCite without actually linking to any ontology, because there is none. So I just think that if there was some ontology maybe created, it shall be reused probably by both of our approaches.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think this job you are describing, it's a task that people at DataCite should do once they feel it's time to commit to the SKG-IF. I think they did some preliminary work, by the way, but and I mean there are many ontologies that are modeling scholarly publication like Spire ontologies, and so I mean there's a plethora of things that they can reuse, and I mean, it's not something that the working group will provide for data side. In the first place, is an exercise they should do, and I think, yeah, I think they started this kind of ontological alignment. At least at the beginning, we had. We were establishing crosswalks between the data models. So the ontology was not, semantically speaking, sound interoperability wasn't there yet, but there were crosswalks. So we kind of knew which is which. So if taking back the crosswalks and seeing where the other models have defined the semantical mapping, that should be easy for data site as well to reverse engineer this kind of task for them as well.
Okay, I understand. Thanks.
Great, thanks. If we have any other questions, check the call doc again. Not, then I'll also just again take this opportunity for an announcement. So some of you may have already heard, we announced this in our recent calls. The new Graph API was released earlier this year, and this week we'll be hosting a public training session for those interested in learning how to really take full advantage of the API training. Oh, sorry, of the API. Seats are limited, so trainers can, of course, give attention to participants, to answer questions and help guide them through queries. So we do only have a couple seats left. It's this Friday, the 20th, from 2 to 4 CEST. So if you're interested in joining, you can register via this link, which I'll paste now in the chat. And then I'm also just sending along some other resources talking about the API, the release article that explained all is what new, our webinar, and the documentation as well. So if you're interested, you can register for that. Again, we do only have, I think, 1 or 2 seats left. So if you're interested and available, register while you can. And then, as always, once we're done with that, if you aren't able to join, we'll make all that material available on the OpenAIRE Graph website. All right. Looks like I don't think we have anything else. Just double checking one last time. Everything. All right. So it sounds like we're good to wrap up. Thank you everybody for joining us. Again, a reminder that this is our last call before the summer holidays, so we'll reconvene in September, so stay tuned for those upcoming topics. And wish you all a good summer, and thank you again so much, Andrea, for presenting, and everybody for your participation.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, goodbye.